Today I'm recommending 10 different sim rigs at 10 different budgets, all the way from free to $1 billion. Let's find out what's right for you. Yes, hello and welcome to my ultimate sim gear buying guide. Let's just jump right into it. Why should you listen to me about this? Well, I worked 6 years in gaming retail. That means I sold vastly different steering wheels, pedals, shifters. I have a bachelor in game design. Doesn't really mean much about the hardware stuff, but I know how a game should feel. This one's important. I have a certificate in motorsport technology. That means I know how race cars work, and I like to build things. And obviously, I have a YouTube channel and a microphone, so you should listen to me. I'm just another white guy talking to a camera. Some disclaimers. This will cover setups all the way from free to 1 billion Australian dollars. The prices will be mainly in Australian dollars, but I have done the US conversion because apparently a lot of you guys watch my videos, which I find interesting, but thanks. This one's really important. I am not sponsored by anyone in this video. No one has given me any money. That means I can say whatever the hell I want about any company. With these bundles I'm going to show you, you don't have to buy specifically what I've said. This is just what I would personally do. This video isn't going to cover every single different sim racing brand that's out there. I might miss one that you think is really good. If I do, let me know in the comments. And this is going to cover everything but screens, VR, haptics, motion platform. This is strictly the wheel, the bases, the pedals, the frames, and the seats. So without further ado, let's go to our first budget. This is all I got. Free. What does that mean? It's probably the controller that came with the console you got. This is specifically looking at PlayStation and Xbox, so this isn't really a PC budget. You're probably 8 and this is your first sim racing thing. This is exactly how I started. I started with the PS2 and Gran Turismo 4, and they didn't even map the accelerator and brake to the triggers. It was the face buttons. Yeah, it probably came with the console. They just work. And being honest, the DualSense triggers on the PS5 controllers do work very well as throttle and brakes, because they have the haptics on it, so it actually feels some resistance, so it actually feels good to use. But the issue of using a controller is the analog sticks. You have to do so many micro adjustments to set the car up right in the right position. So oftentimes it's very hard to do linear movements. You're always like slightly nudging the stick. But they are enough to see if you actually like racing games, and we all start here. On to the next one. The Marketplace Master. This is for people who are balling on a budget. Like I said here, sim racing gear doesn't really break, it just gets outdated. My first sim racing wheel was a Logitech G27 that my uncle gave me, and that lasted me all the way up until like 2023. Another pro about Marketplace is you can find some really good deals. Now, I've set a budget of like 50 to 100 bucks. That's literally you just buy the combo and you whack it on a table. But you can spend as much or as little as you want on Marketplace. You can often find some really high-end stuff for some really good prices. Some downsides are, though, you don't know how well these things have been taken care of, and it's also all used stuff. Like, that's not a downside, but it's not new. An example I've given here is this really cool PlayStation 2 era Logitech Momo branded wheel. How cool is that? On to the next budget. This is the From Santa tier, 200 to 300 Australian dollars, and I have picked the Thrustmaster T128. It is still currently, as of now, the cheapest force feedback wheel you could buy new. I haven't put any wheels that didn't include forward feedback on this cheaper tier because honestly, it's not worth it. Unless you're on like the strictest budget in the world, I'd just save up for this because at least it'll give you some sort of feeling. This monster comes with 2.4 Newton meters of torque. We're going to be talking about torque a lot in this video. Torque just means the twisting force of the wheel itself, how much resistance the wheel has, but also how effectively it can replicate road feel. That's probably the biggest thing about higher Newton meter wheels, is that they feel a lot more accurate. A big plus with this T128 is that it has magnetic paddle shifters, which is something that like you don't see on many cheaper wheels. It's something you sort of see in more expensive wheels and stuff like that. This is a gear and belt driven wheel, so it's a hybrid, but with any sort of gear or belt, it's not going to be as accurate as something like a direct drive, which we'll get into a lot later. Big downside with this sort of budget though, it's a very cheap, fully plastic designed wheel, and the pedals are pretty terrible. This sort of wheel is the wheel that parents that know nothing about sim racing will buy their kid because it's the cheapest wheel they could find at a JB's. These budgets we looked at so far also work on everything: PC, PlayStation, Xbox, everything but like Switch, but there's no sim racing games on Switch, so there's no point. Anyway, next slide. Here we are, the rookie. We know it, we love it. It is the Logitech G29 or G920 if you're on Xbox. I've also included a wheel stand in this budget as well. Like I said, this is the sim wheel. This is the thing that everyone goes out and buys. It is probably the most popular wheel ever made. And just because it's popular doesn't mean it's bad either. There is a reason that it's popular. As you can see in the pricing, I've put an asterisk next to the $600 price range. That's because this thing is never full price. This is probably one of the only products I've ever seen that it's on sale more than it's not. Like, retail price on one of these I think is about 550 Australian dollars, 500 Australian dollars, but it often goes on sale for like 60% off, 50% off. It is always on sale, so you can always pick one up for like 250 to 300 bucks. Even cheaper if you look on Marketplace. That is another thing I'll say about these budgets is you can sort of just mix and match the things I'm suggesting. Like, you could get all of this stuff cheaper if you go on Marketplace or buy it used, or if you want it new, you can just mix and match with some other things. This comes with literally everything you need: wheels, pedals. It's 2.1 to 2.3 Newton meters. Again, not a lot. I'll talk about the sweet spot of the Newton meter later, but the biggest downside to this wheelbase is that it's gear driven and it is so loud. Good luck if you're trying to play this late at night and your parents are yelling at you about it. The gears sound like it's broken out of the box. It's that loud. But a big upside is that the brake pedal feels surprisingly good. Like, it's really strong for what it is. I'm surprised kids can use this. I've also paired it with just a wheel stand because having it bolted into something really helps with that pedal feel. As well as if you are using a wheel stand and you have like a rolling chair, put some shoes under the wheels to stop them from moving around. I had this exact setup a few years ago. I didn't have shoes under the wheels, so I would like hold the wheel and brake and like pull myself towards the wheel. I don't know how it didn't break, but you know. Also, there is a model up from this called the G923. Don't buy it. You don't need to buy it. It is the exact same wheel, except it just has an additional True Force motor in it, which basically means it just has an additional motor in it that just rumbles a bit more. Also, the PlayStation version of this wheel works really well with Gran Turismo 7. The little red dial there is used to navigate the HUD menus, so you can navigate really easily while racing, which a lot of wheels don't have. That's it for the $600 tier. Let's move on to the next one. Here we are, the $1,000 tier. I call this the first big step. This is the Moza R5 bundle paired with a Next Level Racing GT Lite Pro. This is essentially what I'm running right now, except I got a different frame. The frame I'm running is the Next Level Racing GT Track, and this is how you tell I'm not sponsored. I hate it. It's so overpriced. It's 12,000 Australian dollars, and it's shit. I'm sorry, Next Level Racing. Your other stuff is really good. I would love one of your actual extruded aluminium chassis, but this is square tube aluminium, meaning that if you tighten it too hard, it bends. And I've taken this apart and put it back together so many times, but my chair and my wheelbase are out of line. Like, I'm on an angle every time I race, and it's really annoying, and I can't fix it. Rant over. Let's talk about why I did this bundle. As you see, big bold letters, direct drive. So no more gear or belt driven wheels. We are now direct drive. Essentially what that means is the wheel shaft is attached directly to the motor like a big magnet. So that means there's unlimited rotation and much quieter operation. This is our first big step up in torque. It jumps up to 5.5 Newton meters, so basically double of the last one. It feels good, but after a while you do start wanting a lot more. The build on the Moza stuff is excellent, especially for this price range. It's full, I think, like aircraft grade aluminium. It's beautiful. I've had no problems with it at all. The quick disconnect as well on Moses stuff is, I think, one of the better ones out there. I've paired it with the GT Lite Pro because it's a folding cockpit, so it's good for people that don't have a lot of space and don't have the room for a permanent setup. There is a little bit of flexing on the cockpit because it's only a 5.5 Newton meter wheel. You don't really notice it. I have seen people use like chains and ropes to help strengthen the chassis, but other than that, it's a pretty good combo for around $1,000. A big downside though to this bundle is that there is no official PlayStation support. Moza does work on Xbox if you use an Xbox wheel, but there is no support on PlayStation. I have put that in an asterisk though, because as of recording, they are working on PlayStation support for Moza products. Whether that be a whole new base or just an adapter, we don't know yet, but hopefully it's just an adapter so you can use your existing products. Now that's sort of not really a con and not really a pro is that it only comes with 2 pedals. So like for Formula and GT racing, that's fine, but both pedals are just regular Hall effect pedals, so there's no resistance. So that means that your brake pedal, you kind of have to try to use the position of your ankle rather than the force of the pedal. So I would highly recommend getting the brake pedal upgrade for this kit. It's not that much. I think it's like $80 and it makes such a difference to your brake pedal. The Moza software is okay. It's very obviously Chinese that's being translated into English, so there's some weird translations, but other than that, it works pretty fine. I do want to give an honorable mention to the Fanatec DD bundle. It's essentially the same thing. It's a 5.5 Newton meter wheel, but it is significantly more expensive. The bundle is the same price as this whole setup. You don't get a cockpit and it's still $1,000, but it does have PlayStation support if you really want it. If you really want to play Gran Turismo with a direct drive wheel, but the rest of these setups are probably going to be aimed more at PC sim racing. On to the next bundle. So this next bundle, you really want to pay attention to. It's probably the best one that's out there. Like and subscribe. I want to hit 100 subscribers. Sounds like small change, but it would mean a lot to me. Everything helps, especially with such a small channel like mine. But thank you for watching this far anyway. And here we are at the $3,500 to $4,000 range. This is the best for most people. I have chosen a SimMagic Alpha Evo, a SimMagic GT Neo, a Hussenfeld Sprint, SimLab GT1 Evo Cockpit, and an NRG FRP 300 seat. Like, you don't have to go with this bundle specifically, but this is what I would choose personally. We have a 12 Newton meter wheel, 820 extruded aluminium frame, heavy load cell pedals, and an actual real life racing bucket seat. Now I've jumped up quite a bit from 5 Newton meters up to 12. You can get a 9 Newton meter version of this wheelbase. You can also get an 18 Newton meter version of this wheelbase as well. But the reason I picked 12 Newton meters, because in all honesty, 12 Newton meters is enough for anybody. How do I know that? Because real life race cars only have about 12 to 15 Newton meters of force in their steering wheels. Anything over 12 Newton meters is overkill. It does have a purpose, which I'll get into later, but 12 Newton meters is enough for anybody. The SimMagic SimPro software also offers a lot of adjustments. It's a better app. It's not the best app, but it's pretty good. The biggest downside to extruded aluminium frame is though it can't be put away easy. You need a specific spot in your house to use it. I honestly, personally, like if it was me, I wouldn't go any higher than this. I think the GT Neo looks awesome. And a funny thing you'll see later on is that the wheelbase isn't the most expensive part of the next builds. Speaking of which, could have bought a used Civic, 8,000 to 10,000 Australian dollars. For this, I have chosen the SimiCube 2 Pro, the Assetto Racing McLaren Artura GT4, SimiCube Active Pedal Pro Plus Passive Accelerator, the Mighty Track Racer TL160, and a Sparco circuit. This is where we start getting into bigger number mean more expensive territory. While the previous setup I think is enough for anyone, this is more aimed towards those people that just want to take the next big step because they can. I will say though, the biggest upgrade from this compared to the other one is the brake pedal. This uses what's called an active brake pedal, so which when you press on it, it actually gives you real-time feedback. There's a motor on the back of the pedal which simulates a real brake pedal, real forces. You can change the forces on the fly depending on what car you're driving. It is probably the biggest upgrade to sim racing that we've seen in a while. And in all honesty, I think SimiCube is probably the best wheelbase you can get on the market at the moment. Their software is probably some of the best on the market in terms of usability and adjustments. And this wheelbase, the 2 Pro, comes with 25 Newton meters of torque. Here's not really a rant, but some informative things for you. No one actually runs these higher Newton meter wheelbases at that rate. What they do is in their software, they bring it back down to probably about 12, maybe 15 if you want real resistance. But you're probably thinking, what's the point of having a high Newton meter wheel if you're not going to run it at that rate? This is where a thing called overbuilding comes into effect. For example, say you build a car and you build it to have 800 horsepower, but because of reliability, you decide to run it at 600. It can do 800, but you tune it down a bit. It's essentially the same thing that's happening here. While the wheelbase can do 25 Newton meters, what that really means is how much information it can give you through the steering wheel. So the higher number, the higher fidelity you get through the wheel. But because that's a lot of torque, you want to turn it down. So if you have a higher Newton meter wheel, but you turn it down, you don't lose that fidelity, you just lose the strength, but the quality is still there. That's why you would look at buying a high Newton meter wheel. Not necessarily because more torque means more better. It's about how accurate it can get with its road feeling. Also at this point, I'm just picking expensive like chassis and chairs, but you don't have to go with these ones. Any sort of extruded aluminum frame is going to be better regardless of who it's from. And same with the chairs, just buy a chair that fits you. I know people that have gone to junkyards and just taken chairs out of cars there and used them on their sim, so might as well just pick whatever's comfortable for you. You're the one that's going to be sitting in it for hours. I also picked the wheel because this is basically Max Verstappen's setup. Max Verstappen basically uses this setup with a different chassis, and he also has motion, which adds like another $10,000. All right, we're not done yet though. On to the next bundle. Compensating for something, pal? This is, if money was no issue, what you'd probably be looking at. This is the best of the best in every sort of department. So our wheelbase is the brand new SimiCube 3 Ultimate. The wheel is a Gomez Sim Industries Hyper P1. We are going with a triple active Ultimate set from SimiCube as well. Our chassis is the SimLabs P1X Pro. And we've also gone with an FIA approved carbon fiber bucket seat. This is for the top dogs. This is for the absolute ballers. This is for the people that go, I don't have a budget, put together a sim rig for me. This is for Joe Rogan. At this point, there is no such thing as cost to performance. You're just buying the most expensive shit. This is where you're really seeing diminishing returns as well in terms of just like quality. For example, like I said before, this is a 32 Newton meter torque wheelbase. But again, you're not going to be running it at that rate anyway. You're still going to probably be running it at like 12. This is also a 3 active pedal setup, which you don't need. If you're going to buy an active pedal, you'd only be using it for your brake pedal. You don't need an active clutch or you don't need an active accelerator pedal. Go drive your car right now. Your accelerator pedal just feels like a lever. And again, at this point, the frame and the seat don't really matter. I just picked the most expensive ones I could find. It, like, as cool as it is to say I have an FIA approved racing seat in my setup, that's also like, but why? This is technically the best, but doesn't mean it's the best for you. Here's a little story for you. When I was working in retail, I sold a lot of headsets. That was primarily the thing I sold. And at the time, the best gaming headset you could buy was either the Astro A50s or the Arctis Pros, I think. The Arctis Pros were like a noise cancelling, dual battery, can work on everything, insane kit. They were really good. They were technically, on paper, the best headset you could buy. And they were $750. And every time a customer came to me, they would go, what's the best gaming headset? And I'd go, oh, these ones here. And they'd go, that's too expensive. They weren't asking for the best. They were asking the best for their budget. That's what they're really asking for. So here's a consumer tip for you when you're buying anything. Just because something advertised or people say it's the best, doesn't mean it's the best for you. It just means it's the best specs on paper. They're often really expensive, and it's okay to jump down a couple budget ranges to find something that's just as good for less money. More expensive doesn't mean more better. And with that, we're gonna move on to some just ridiculous setups. This is for the F1 fan with too much money and not a lot of sense. This is the F1 Authentics F1 Team Simulator. I've said F1 like a billion times at this point. This goes for 175,000 Australian dollars. And what it is essentially half a replica of a real F1 car. And it's an absolute rip-off. Like, yeah, it's cool to have half an F1 car as your setup, but the actual tech that's in this thing is pretty outdated. Now, I couldn't find an official listing of what they actually put in this in terms of like the wheelbase and stuff, but judging from like the advertising videos, it looks like a Fanatec Podium, which is a good wheelbase, but it's like pretty old and there's better ones out there. I don't know what the pedals are, but again, I don't think you're really caring about that stuff if you buy this. You're buying it because it's half an F1 car. Again, the only people that are buying this are people that have way more money than sense. It does come with a motion platform though, so that's pretty cool. And lastly, the $1 billion bundle, Daddy's Little Prince. The Aston Martin Aramco Formula One team in-house simulator that I've said is over $1 billion because that's how much you need to get it. So it's very simple to get this set up. All you need to do is have a dad with $1 billion, buy into an F1 team that'll let you use their simulator while you're driving in Formula 3, skip Formula 2, join that F1 team, and then later down the line, your dad buys another F1 team that you join and you get access to their simulator. This is a 100% bespoke, custom-made simulator. Everything's done in-house. It uses real F1 pedals, a real F1 wheel. It uses a multi-axis platform, a massive projector screen. Now, obviously, I am joking, but looking into the simulators, it's really cool. Their graphics are run by rFactor Pro. Now, the actual physics aren't rFactor's physics. Each team has an in-house code they use to try and replicate their car. But the graphics are run by rFactor Pro. And I one day hope to actually try and use one of these simulators. I doubt it, but you know, if you like and subscribe enough, I might get there. And here's some additional and final thoughts. If you want to step up any of these bundles, especially ones that have like a dedicated cockpit, haptics, something like a butt kicker can add a whole new level of immersion. Motion platforms are fun, but they don't actually equate to like faster lap times. And adding on to that, a lot of these setups can be like $10,000 or more if you add a motion setup as well. Here's a question I think a lot of you will be asking is what's better, VR or screens? Like a lot of things in life, it depends. I know it's not the answer that everyone wants, but if you're asking me, I think screens are better. I've used VR a little bit, but not to the point where I'd write it off completely. But the good thing with screens is that your peripheral is a lot better. I find in VR that your peripheral is cut off a lot and you have to move your head a lot. You're also not wanting to spend more than like half an hour in a VR headset, while screens you can drive on for hours. Personally, for me as well, I think $3,000 to $4,000 is probably the sweet spot, especially if you're looking at price to performance. I'd maybe add an active brake pedal to that budget. It will cost them like another $2,000 more, but it's probably the biggest upgrade at that point. Anything else, the differences in quality is going to be pretty minimal. And talking about upgradings, a lot of these more expensive rigs are aiming for realism more than actual hardware upgrades. The more expensive stuff is just going to replicate driving a real car better more than just getting you better lap times in sim. But with that being said, this is my definitive guide to sim racing hardware. If you disagree with me, you're wrong. But I'm kidding. If you do have different ideas of things I didn't talk about, please put it in the description. I know I missed a lot of different setups and brands. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.